Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to MST.TV. This is Nishi here. In today's episode, we are taking a look at 5 different deck engines that I think you should all be looking to pick up and hold onto while they are still quite cheap. So throughout the history of the game, we've seen a lot of different engines pop up here and there, a more compact set of cards that maybe isn't like the deck's entire main strategy, but consists of a few key cards with powerful effects that are used to supplement a strategy. For example, we saw Monarchs play the Brilliant Fusion engine, a ton of decks siding the Artifact engine, Infernoids and Eldritch both play the Lightsworn engine, and then of course the Invoked engine, which is being splashed absolutely everywhere at the moment. Even if they're not necessarily amazing to play right now, I think that the cards we're going to talk about in today's video could be useful in different strategies in the future, so it would be a great idea to pick them up now while they're relatively inexpensive and not on a lot of people's radar. Alright guys, so if you enjoy seeing these types of videos in addition to our regularly scheduled market watches, please hit that thumbs up button for me and let me know you guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. Let's get started. Okay, so to kick things off, we have Incantations. So the Incantations are an archetype used to supplement ritual decks. Now they do have their own boss monster, Chalislime, which could arguably be included in the engine as well, though it's not necessarily as key as the 4 that I'm showing on screen here: Candle, Talismandra, Pensaplume, and Bookstone. So basically each of these 4 monsters has an effect where you reveal either a ritual spell or ritual monster from your hand, depending on the card, to special summon this incantation from your hand, as well as another incantation monster from your deck. So right off the bat, this puts 2 bodies onto the board that can be tributed for ritual summons without even burning your normal summon. In addition, the monster that you summon out of the deck gets its effect triggered, allowing you to either search for a ritual monster or spell, or add a ritual monster or spell from your graveyard to your hand. This is incredibly flexible because depending on the situation, you can pull the appropriate target out of your deck or graveyard based on what you need and what resources you have available. Now at the moment, there currently aren't really any ritual decks that are doing well in the game. You could argue that Nekroz or Megalith are rogue interesting strategies, but they're not really doing anything competitive. I think that there is a very good chance that when we inevitably get a decent ritual deck in the future, these cards could be very key pieces for that strategy because of just how versatile they are without restricting you into any sort of crazy conditions. Now specifically, if you're looking to hold on to these, I would be looking at picking up the Megatin super rare versions because they are all hollow, so they'll be more highly sought after. I believe that at the moment, they are all only around $1 or so each, so they make great cheap pickups when you're looking to round up an order online, or you're looking for small cards to pick up in trades. Next up, we have the Crusader engine. So I feel like these cards are really underrated because no one is really talking about or appreciating just how versatile these cards really are. Now admittedly, Arborea, Maximus, Draco, and Leonis all have effects that target Crusader Link monsters you control, but that's not why we're interested in these cards. I think that these cards have potential because they are free extenders that can be summoned from the hand in any Link-based strategy, making them really solid cards to open with in various combo decks. We're starting to see it a tiny bit already because Crusader Arborea as a tuner can fill that role and help different decks to make Needle Fiber a little bit more easily. You can summon it off of any Link arrow, even though it's just like Almirage or Link Karibo already being on the field. However, different decks in the future will have different requirements for what they need, and each of the Crusader monsters could be a potential extender in those decks. Leonis is an Earth Beast, Maximus is a Light Psychic, Reclusia is a Water Warrior, Draco is a Wind Dragon, and Reclusia is a Fire Spellcaster. So that's a lot of different ways that they could be useful to these other strategies. You don't even need to link with them necessarily, right? Leonis, Arborea, and Reclusia are level 3s, while Maximus and Draco are level 4. So they could be used for some interesting Synchro or Xyz strategies as well. Now, I would grab your copies of Magius as well, because if you happen to draw into multiple Crusaders, if you are playing them, you can turn one into Magius and then kind of start off a combo from there. Also, I do believe that Crusader Reclusia is very notable because it can also function as a kind of Raigeki break to get rid of an opponent's card on the field, since it can pop itself, so it does provide additional utility against some decks there. Anyways, most of these cards are available from the 2019 Megatins as holos as well, though Leonis was from an OTS pack, so for the most part, these cards are only around $1 or so. I think Arborea might be a couple dollars because of Needle Fiber, but other than that, I think all of these cards make great pickups to pick up slowly whenever you can grab them for cheap, right? Because you never know when a deck will come out that will lead to one of these cards starting to see play. So now we're on to the Danger Engine, and before you guys spam the comments, yes, I do know that we still have Nessie, Jackalope, and Tsuchinoko Limited, which admittedly does hurt the consistency of the engine. However, just because the engine is no longer broken, abusable, and played in everything, doesn't mean that the engine is dead. I think the thing that we have to keep in mind here is that all of these cards can mostly function independently when you draw them, and while the most broken danger cards were hit on the ban list, the rest of the cards can still greatly help other decks to function. The whole concept of danger monsters, in my mind, feels really broken still, as all of the danger cards can potentially get you a free body on board, they draw you a card, and they can get another key card in the graveyard. At the moment, there's nothing in the game that can really take advantage of the danger cards, and so as a result, they feel underutilized. Eldritch could use them to get cards into the graveyard, but they're not much of a combo deck outside of the new synchro combos that they have, and Adamanticators don't want their cards in the graveyard, right? They want to summon everything from their hand. However, getting cards into the graveyard has always been a key mechanic for so many different cards and decks in the game's history. I think that this trend will absolutely continue. We are going to have some sort of combo deck come out in the future that needs cards in the graveyard and could really just use help getting bodies onto the board or drawing cards, and someone is going to look at dangers and splash them in. Remember that they all do have other effects as well, so you could use Thunderbird or Bigfoot to pop cards, or you could use Mothman for the Dark World dealings like effect. These are really solid tools that you can add to different strategies. Fortunately, a lot of these cards were reprinted in the 2019 Megatins, so they aren't too expensive. Though if you're looking for original secret rare versions, some of them might still be a little bit pricey, though of course if they do continue to see play in the future, then the prices could increase over time. I think that the prismatic secrets from the 2019 Megatins are really nice, and they match some of the original secret rares if you're able to get your hands on them, but really just go with whatever rarities you like and go from there. Okay, so finally, an engine where most of the cards aren't from the 2019 Megatins, we have the Kaiju engine. So this one's kind of flexible because there are so many different kaijus and different decks have different needs. Gameciel is probably the most popular as it has the lowest attack points, though dinosaurs do play Dogoran, dark decks play Radiant, and so on, so each one might be useful for a different reason depending on the deck you're playing it in. Now recently, we haven't seen too much play from kaijus in general. Rather, we're seeing a lot of decks focus on huge ways to get rid of multiple monsters, cards like Sphere Mode, Super Polymerization, Dark Ruler No More, and Evenly Matched. This is kind of like a rotating thing, and I think it kind of depends on what decks are meta and what the most effective way to break a board is in any given format. However, I think that kaijus are still worth picking up, right? Because they will at some point be useful and rotate back into the meta to see some sort of play. Very notably, I think that they will see an increase in side deck play when Red Eye's Darkness Dragoon comes out in the 2020 Megatins later this year, as the kaijus are a great way to get rid of Dragoon. Dragoon's ability to negate cards as well as be immune to destruction makes it incredibly difficult to out, so just summoning a kaiju over it and then doing your combo seems great, especially because it doesn't burn your normal summon at all. Perhaps in a situation like that, mass removal might not be as effective if your opponent is committing limited resources to the board and they're just sitting on Dragoon or Verte Anaconda and Dragoon, as we've seen some decks do in the OCG, then maybe a kaiju is a better answer for that specific situation. If you don't have these cards yet, I would recommend picking up a playset of each just to make sure that you have them available depending on what deck you decide to play in the future and which card makes the most sense to use in your strategies. Now, I also do count Kaiju Slumber when I think about kaijus, since I think it could be an interesting option if we see some deck with a lack of inherent protection, and Slumber could be a side deck card as well. There are a lot of different kaijus, and I think most of them have at least 2 different printings. If you aren't wanting to invest in picking up holos, I would make sure that you at least have commons or rares available for yourself to use. Alright guys, the last engine here is one that I think is seeing some play in the OCG and is really going to be more useful when the Dragma archetype comes out in Rise of the Duelist later this year, and that is the Shaddoll engine. So in the OCG, players are taking advantage of the fact that the Shaddoll fusion monsters get their effects whenever they're sent to the graveyard, even if that's directly from the extra deck. So the idea is that with the first Dragma that you use, you dump App Cologne, which lets you add to your hand and then send from your hand to the graveyard 1 Shaddoll card, in this case Shaddoll Rook, which is a continuous trap coming out in Rise of the Duelist that allows you to fusion summon a Shaddoll monster from your extra deck by banishing materials from your graveyard. After that, with your next dump, you dump Construct, who adds the Shaddoll Rook back to your hand, and then you set it. Then during your opponent's turn, this essentially allows you to make a free El Shaddoll Winda by banishing the Construct and App Cologne from your graveyard, which is really restricting, right? It's kind of annoying to only get that one special summon per turn. Now, this isn't the only use of the Shaddoll engine, as I believe some people have looked at using Shaddoll Fusion in the main or side deck, both in the TCG and OCG, as a going second option against extra deck centric strategies, since you can dump a Shaddoll monster like Shaddoll Beast, as well as a dark or light monster for Winda or Construct, which both gets a key monster into the graveyard, but also allows you to draw a card and puts a monster onto the board for you. I think there's a lot of interesting things you can do with the Shaddoll engine, so I would make sure that you have everything available, especially for when the Dragma deck does come to the TCG. What's great is that the cards were just reprinted in the Shaddoll structure deck, so everything should be really affordable. Just make sure that you pick up your stuff now before we see something happen like with the Dino structure deck that results in a $10 or $15 card being inside of the sealed product. Alright guys, that is it for today's episode. Hopefully you all found this video helpful and a little bit informative. It is a bit different from the types of market watches that I usually post, but I feel like it was a good chance to discuss some opportunities that I saw and some of my thoughts on cards and how to make sound, low-risk pickups with a lot of potential upside. If you guys did enjoy this discussion type of video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button for me, as it does help out a ton. Also, let me know if you would like to see more types of videos like this, or your recommendations for other types of discussions you'd like to see on the channel in the comment section down below. Also, if you haven't already, make sure that you hit the subscribe button for all of the latest content from Tombox and myself here on MST.TV. And yeah, so until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.